So by now, all of you have completed the chapter 3 and the chapter 2 homework. And one of the things that I left in there for you to struggle with, and I'll admit it's on purpose, was the question about compound interest. Now, for many of us, that is not going to be a concern immediately moving forward, right? So for those of us with a mortgage, we thought about compound interest one time before. We simply signed on the dotted line and said, yeah, I want to spend way too much on a house, or, yeah, I want to spend way too much on a car, or whatever the case may have been. And I know, because I hear this complaint every semester from students just like you who say, I am never going to have to computate? That's not right. I'm never going to have to that's difficult to say. Compute compound interest because I'm going to go out there and find a calculator that can do it for me. Maybe. But here's the bigger takeaway is you've got to know what you know, and you've got to know what you don't know, and you have to know how to be able to figure it out. One day, when you are out there in the industries, when you are out there as a developer, it is going to be your job to take your set of skills and translate that into an application or an application programming interface or a server architecture or whatever for another client. And that client is not going to speak your language. They are going to be subject matter experts in something else, right? So you are going to work with a bank at some point, and they're going to say, hey, look, we need to be able to, provide instant access to monthly payments, which includes things like that problem just had you go through. And we need to include that for our tellers or our bank managers or our branch loan officers or whatever the case might be. And it's entirely the case that those individuals are going to have a better idea of what has to go into that calculation. But I can assure you that not all of them are going to know that. I have a mortgage, and I could not just off the top of my head do the compound interest calculation. I would have to go look it up. And that really is what your job is going to be, is going to figure out, okay, how do we address this problem? Do we break it down into steps? Do we sit here and cry? Do we crumple under our desk and say, maybe if I fall asleep, this whole problem will go away? And there's healthy ways and there's not healthy ways to address that. The crumple version of that is not the healthiest way to be able to deal with the problem. Even if you don't know what you're doing first, break the problem down into smaller component pieces. Go through and tackle those small component pieces one at a time until you find that you are done with the problem. So in addition to this video that I have for you here, I also have under this video the actual solution for the problem, so you can see how it's done, so you can see how close you are, etc. But you are going to be given problems that you have not had to previously solve. I am going to be the first culprit in giving you problems that you have not had to previously solve, and for the arc of your career, that is going to be what you are doing. So be comfortable with the idea that you're going to be uncomfortable. Be aware that you'll know what you know, and you won't know outside of the things that you know. And be capable of going out and finding, the constituent parts of that problem you have to solve and being able to translate that into here as C++, but really any other language that you are going to use to build that architecture to deploy that solution. So many of you will have done part of the problem. Many of you will have done all of the problem, but potentially incorrectly. Some of you will have looked at the problem and burst into tears. And that's, the usual arc of things here. But you are going to have more problems as we proceed that are going to be outside of your comfort zone. Get comfortable being uncomfortable, and that is a great way to survive the development world.